The old woman was dying. Marcus Kane could see it from his car. The way she slumped against the bus stop wall, the way her chest barely moved, the way nobody, not one single person walking past, even looked at her. She was just another homeless person, another problem somebody else should handle, another person Seattle had forgotten. Marcus should have kept driving. He had a $50 million deal closing in an hour, a dinner reservation at the most exclusive restaurant in the city, a life that didn't include stopping in freezing rain for strangers. But something made him slam on the brakes. Cars honked. A taxi swerved around him, driver screaming. His hazard lights blinked red against the dark Seattle street. Marcus didn't care. He grabbed his umbrella and stepped out into the rain. The cold hit him like a fist. November in Seattle. The kind of rain that doesn't just soak you, it erases you. His $4,000 suit was ruined within seconds. His Italian leather shoes filled with water. None of it mattered, because the old woman across the street wasn't moving anymore. Marcus ran, dodged a bus, nearly got hit by a truck, reached the bus stop where she sat crumpled like discarded trash. Up close, it was worse. So much worse. She looked 70, maybe older. Her face was the color of ash. Her lips were blue. Her clothes, 3 jackets layered on top of each other, were soaked through and doing nothing to stop the shaking. "Ma'am?" Marcus dropped to his knees, held his umbrella over both of them. "Can you hear me?" Nothing, not even a blink. Marcus's hands shook as he pulled out his phone, dialed 911, started to give them the location. Then the woman's hand moved, just barely, reaching towards something on the ground beside her, a plastic shopping bag, the only thing she owned in the world. "Ma'am, don't move. Help is coming. Just..." Her eyes opened, slow, painful, like it took every ounce of strength she had left. And when those eyes met Marcus's, the world stopped. Not because they were the eyes of a dying stranger, but because they were eyes Marcus had seen before. In the only photograph he'd kept from his childhood. The photograph that sat in a locked drawer in his penthouse. The photograph he couldn't throw away, but couldn't look at either. Green eyes with a gold ring around the pupil. A small scar cutting through her left eyebrow. The exact shape of her face beneath decades of pain. Before I tell you why this dying woman made a billionaire freeze in the middle of a Seattle street, hit subscribe right now and comment below telling us where you're watching from. Now back to our story. "No," Marcus whispered. The phone slipped from his hand, clattered onto the wet concrete. "This can't be. You can't be." But it was. Diane Parker, the mother who'd abandoned him 32 years ago at a Seattle orphanage. The woman who'd walked away and never looked back. And she was dying right in front of him. Right now. In this moment. Marcus had maybe minutes to decide. Save her or let her go. After everything she'd done. After 32 years of abandonment and pain and unanswered questions. Save her. Or walk away just like she'd walked away from him. The rain poured down. The phone kept ringing with 911 dispatch asking for information. And Marcus Kane, billionaire self-made success story, the boy who'd survived being unwanted, had to make the hardest choice of his life. Let me tell you how Marcus Kane ended up kneeling in the rain beside the mother who abandoned him. Marcus was 37 years old. CEO of Kane Ventures, the investment firm that had made him a billionaire before 40. He lived in a glass penthouse on the 48th floor overlooking Elliott Bay, drove a $300,000 McLaren, wore watches worth more than houses. But none of that existed 32 years ago. Back then, Marcus was 5-year-old Jason Parker, and he lived in a cramped studio apartment in Tacoma with his mother, Diane, a 22-year-old woman who'd gotten pregnant at 17 and watched her entire life disappear. Diane's boyfriend had left the second she told him. Her parents kicked her out, called her a disgrace, told her to never come back. So Diane raised Jason alone. She worked double shifts at a diner, cleaned offices at night, slept maybe 4 hours if she was lucky, fed Jason whatever was cheapest, ramen, crackers, peanut butter from the jar. She tried. God, she tried. But Diane was drowning. She'd see her old high school friends on Facebook, going to college, getting engaged, traveling to Europe, living lives that looked nothing like hers. And she'd look at little Jason, sweet, quiet Jason who just wanted his mommy, and feel the walls closing in, like her life had ended before it started, like she'd never escape. One October morning in 1993, Diane made a choice, the kind of choice that haunts you forever. She dressed Jason in his best clothes, told him they were going on an adventure, took him to St. Vincent's Home for Children in downtown Seattle. "I need help," she told the nun at the front desk, tears streaming down her face. "Just for a few days, while I get back on my feet." The nun asked for information, for paperwork, for a way to contact her. Diane said she'd bring it tomorrow, promised she'd be back. She kissed Jason goodbye, told him to be good, told him Mommy loved him, and then she walked out. She never came back. Jason waited for 3 days, then a week, a month, asking the nuns every single day, "When is Mommy coming back?" They had no answer. Eventually, Jason became property of the state, foster care, different homes, different families. Some were nice, most weren't. He learned fast that nobody wanted boys who cried, boys who asked too many questions, boys who needed things. So Jason stopped crying, stopped asking, built walls so high nobody could ever hurt him again. At 18, he legally changed his name to Marcus Kane. New name, new identity. No connection to the past that destroyed him. He worked 3 jobs to pay for community college, transferred to University of Washington, graduated top of his class with a degree in finance, got hired at Amazon, then Microsoft, then started his own firm. Kane Ventures grew fast. Marcus saw opportunities where others saw risk, made investments that turned into gold, built an empire on intelligence, ruthlessness, and the burning need to prove he was worth something. By 35, Marcus was a billionaire. By 37, he owned half of downtown Seattle. But money didn't fix the hole inside him, the one shaped like a 5-year-old boy asking, "When is Mommy coming back?" He tried therapy, meditation, dating. Nothing worked, because some wounds don't heal. Some questions don't have answers. Like, why wasn't I enough? What did I do wrong? Where did you go? Marcus had spent 3 decades trying not to think about Diane Parker, trying to forget the woman who'd chosen freedom over her son. Until tonight, when she appeared like a ghost, dying on the exact same Seattle street where she'd abandoned him 32 years ago. For 6 months, she felt free. She moved to Portland, got a bartending job, started dating a guy with a motorcycle, went to concerts, partied, did all the things she'd missed while raising a baby. She told herself Jason was better off, that St. Vincent's would find him a perfect family, that she'd done the right thing. But guilt is patient. It waits in the dark, and eventually it destroys you. Diane started drinking, heavily, lost the bartending job, lost the boyfriend, lost the apartment, started using pills, then harder stuff. By 30, she was an addict. By 40, she'd been through rehab 8 times and failed every time. By 50, she was homeless. For 17 years, Diane lived on the streets. Seattle, Portland, Spokane, Tacoma, wherever she could find a shelter bed or a warm doorway. She tried to find Jason once, when she got sober for 4 months in her mid-40s, went back to St. Vincent's, asked about the boy she'd left. They told her he'd been adopted, wouldn't give details, said it was for his protection. Diane didn't fight, just accepted she'd lost him forever and relapsed 3 weeks later. Now she was 70 years old, sick with pneumonia, liver failing from decades of alcohol, sitting in the freezing rain because the shelter was full and she had nowhere else to die. And then a stranger stopped his expensive car in the middle of traffic, a stranger with kind eyes who looked exactly like the 5-year-old boy she'd abandoned. A stranger whose face made Diane realize that sometimes the universe gives you one last chance to say you're sorry, even if it's 32 years too late. Marcus picked up his phone. The 911 dispatcher was still on the line, voice distant and tinny against the rain. Sir? Sir, are you there? What's your emergency? Marcus stared at the woman, at Diane, at the mother who'd erased him from her life. She was dying. Her breathing came in short, painful gasps. Her skin looked like wax. If he didn't get her help in the next few minutes, she'd be gone. And part of Marcus, the 5-year-old boy who'd cried himself to sleep in foster homes, wanted to let her die, wanted to walk away, wanted her to feel what abandonment felt like. But he couldn't. 3rd Avenue and Pike Street, Marcus said into the phone. Elderly woman, hypothermia, possible pneumonia, she's unconscious. He gave them details, his name, his number, everything they needed. Then he hung up and looked at Diane. Her eyes were open now, barely, focused on his face with an expression Marcus couldn't name. Recognition? Fear? Regret? Jason, she whispered. Her voice was broken glass. My Jason. Don't. Marcus's jaw clenched. Don't call me that. You're alive. You're here. You're... A cough racked her body. She doubled over, wheezing. Marcus grabbed her before she fell, supported her weight even though every instinct screamed to let go. His expensive suit pressed against her soaked, filthy clothes. He didn't care. Ambulance is coming, he said. Just hold on. Why? Diane's eyes met his. Why are you helping me? Good question. Marcus didn't have an answer. Because someone has to, he said finally, and it looks like I'm the only one who stopped. Diane laughed. It turned into another coughing fit. When it passed, she said, You turned out better than me. Better than I deserved. Yeah, I did. The words landed like stones. Diane flinched but didn't look away. I looked for you, she said, years ago. They said you were adopted. I thought you had a family, a good life. I did have a family. Marcus's voice was cold. 12 of them, actually. 12 different foster homes in 13 years. Some were okay. Most weren't. But hey, at least they didn't abandon me, right? They just didn't want me either. Diane's face crumpled. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't mean anything, but I'm sorry. You're right. It doesn't mean anything. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Marcus held Diane upright, his umbrella keeping the rain off both of them while strangers walked past pretending not to see. What happened to you? Marcus asked. Not because he cared, but because he needed to know. Needed to understand how someone went from abandoning their child to dying on a street corner. Everything. Diane's voice was barely audible. I thought I'd be free without you. Thought I could have the life I wanted. But guilt doesn't let you go. It follows you. Eats you alive. She closed her eyes. Started drinking, using. Lost everything. Been homeless for... I don't even know how long anymore. Time stops mattering when you have nothing. You had me. You had a son who loved you. That was something. I know. And I threw it away because I was young and stupid and selfish. Diane looked at him again. But you, look at you. Expensive suit, fancy car. You made something of yourself despite me. Maybe because of me. Don't. Marcus's voice shook. Don't try to make my success about you. I built my life in spite of you, not because of you. I know that too. The ambulance pulled up. Paramedics jumped out with a stretcher. Marcus backed away, giving them room. Sir, are you family? One of the paramedics asked. Marcus hesitated. Was he? Biologically, yes. But in every way that mattered, no. They were strangers who shared DNA and nothing else. No, Marcus said. I'm just someone who stopped. The paramedics loaded Diane onto the stretcher, started an IV, checked her vitals. One of them radioed the hospital with numbers that Marcus understood meant she was in bad shape. We're taking her to Harborview, the paramedic said. If you want to follow, I don't. Diane turned her head, looked at Marcus one last time. Thank you, she whispered, for stopping, for not letting me die alone in the rain. Marcus didn't respond, just watched as they loaded her into the ambulance, watched as the doors closed, watched as they drove away, sirens fading into the Seattle night. Then he stood there, in the rain, in his ruined suit, shaking not from cold, but from something he couldn't name. His phone rang. The office, the deal, the life he'd built. Marcus declined the call, got in his Tesla, sat in silence. Then he did something he hadn't done in 32 years. He cried. Marcus didn't go home that night. He drove, aimlessly, through Seattle's rain-soaked streets, past the penthouse where he should be sleeping, past the restaurants where he should be celebrating. Just driving. Eventually, he ended up at St. Vincent's Home for Children. The building looked different than he remembered. They'd renovated. New paint, new sign. But the bones were the same. The place where Diane had left him 32 years ago. Marcus parked across the street, stared at the building through his windshield. He'd sworn he'd never come back here, never give this place another second of his thoughts. But tonight, surrounded by ghosts, he needed to see it. A light was on in the front office. Through the window, Marcus could see a nun working at a desk, probably doing paperwork, handling the endless stream of kids nobody wanted. Marcus got out, crossed the street, knocked on the door. The nun who answered was young, maybe 30. She hadn't been here when Marcus was 5. Can I help you? She asked. I used to live here, Marcus said. Long time ago. 1993. I was wondering if... Do you keep records of the kids who came through? The nun's expression softened. We do, but they're confidential unless I'm not looking for someone else. I'm looking for me, for my file. Understanding dawned. Come in, it's freezing out there. Marcus stepped into the building. The smell hit him immediately. Industrial cleaner mixed with that particular scent of institutions. Old wood, worn carpet, too many bodies in too little space. The nun led him to an office, asked him to wait, disappeared into a back room. Marcus sat in a plastic chair and looked at walls covered in children's drawings. Bright crayon pictures of families and houses in sunshine. The kind of future every kid here dreamed about, but few actually got. The nun returned with a thin manila folder. Jason Parker, admitted October 1993. Is that you? Marcus nodded. His throat felt tight. She handed him the folder. I'll give you privacy. Take all the time you need. When she left, Marcus opened the file with shaking hands. Inside were forms he'd never seen. Intake paperwork from the day Diane brought him. Medical records. School reports from the 1 year he spent here before entering foster care. And at the bottom, a letter. Marcus pulled it out. The handwriting was messy, rushed, like someone had written it in tears. To whoever reads this, his name is Jason Parker. He's 5 years old. His birthday is March 3rd. He likes dinosaurs and mac and cheese and books about space. I know what I'm doing is wrong. I know I should be stronger, should be better. But I can't do this anymore. I'm drowning, and if I don't let go, we're both going to sink. Please find him a good family. People who can love him the way he deserves. People who won't resent him for existing. People who won't look at him and see everything they gave up. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I loved him. Tell him this isn't his fault. Tell him he deserved better than me. Diane Parker. Marcus read it 3 times, then a 4th, each word cutting deeper than the last. She'd known it was wrong. She'd known he'd suffer. She'd done it anyway. But she'd also loved him. In her broken, inadequate way, she'd loved him enough to let him go. Enough to hope he'd find something better. It didn't excuse what she did. Didn't erase 32 years of pain, but it explained it. Made her human instead of monster. Marcus folded the letter carefully, put it back in the file, closed it. "Did you find what you were looking for?" the nun asked when he handed back the folder. "I don't know," Marcus said honestly. "Maybe." He left St. Vincent's and got back in his car, pulled out his phone, opened his contacts, found the one labeled Harborview Medical Center. His finger hovered over the call button. This was it. The moment where he chose forgiveness or revenge, mercy or justice. The kind of man he wanted to be. Marcus made the call. "Harborview Medical Center, how can I direct your call?" "I need information on a patient, Diane Parker. She was brought in a few hours ago. Hypothermia and pneumonia." Keys clicking. Then, "Are you family?" Marcus closed his eyes. "Yes, I'm her son. She's in the ICU, critical but stable. Are you able to come in? She's been asking for someone named Jason." Of course she had. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Marcus said. He hung up, started the car, and drove toward the hospital where his mother, the woman who'd abandoned him, was fighting for her life, not because he'd forgiven her, not because everything was okay, but because 32 years ago, a 5-year-old boy had needed someone to show up, and nobody did. Marcus refused to be that person, refused to let someone die alone just because they'd made terrible choices, even if that someone was the woman who'd abandoned him. Marcus walked through the automatic doors into fluorescent brightness that hurt his eyes after hours of Seattle rain. His wet shoes squeaked on linoleum floors. His ruined suit drew stares from security guards and night shift nurses. He didn't care. He walked straight to the ICU desk. "Diane Parker," he said. "I'm her son." The nurse looked up, took in his expensive watch, his tailored suit, the way he carried himself like someone used to getting what he wanted. Then she looked at her computer screen where Diane Parker's file said, "Homeless, no insurance, no next of kin." The math didn't add up, but the nurse had worked in hospitals long enough to know that families came in all shapes, especially broken ones. "Room 412, she's intubated. Doctor will brief you before you go in." Marcus nodded, sat in a waiting room that smelled like burnt coffee and fear. 10 minutes later, a doctor appeared, young, tired, the kind of exhaustion that came from saving people who'd spent years trying to die. "Mr. Kane, I'm Dr. Patel. Your mother is stable for now, but her condition is serious. What's the prognosis?" Dr. Patel hesitated. "She has severe pneumonia, malnutrition, liver damage from chronic alcohol use. Her immune system is compromised. Even with treatment, her chances are—" He trailed off. "I won't lie to you. It's not good." "How long?" "If she responds to antibiotics, maybe weeks, maybe months. If she doesn't—" Dr. Patel shook his head. "Days, maybe less." Marcus absorbed this. His mother, the woman who'd walked away 32 years ago, might not survive the week. "Can I see her?" "Yes, but understand, she's sedated. She won't know you're there." That almost made it easier. Marcus followed Dr. Patel through double doors into the ICU. The beeping of machines filled the air. In room 412, surrounded by monitors and IV drips, Diane Parker lay unconscious. She looked smaller than she had on the street. Fragile. The ventilator breathed for her in mechanical rhythm. Her face was clean now. Someone had washed away the grime, and Marcus could see hints of the woman from the photograph, the one who'd smiled holding baby Jason. He sat in the chair beside her bed, didn't speak, didn't touch her, just sat. "Talk to her," Dr. Patel said from the doorway. Even sedated, patients can sometimes hear. It might help. Then he left Marcus alone with his dying mother. What do you say to someone who destroyed your childhood, who chose freedom over you, who spent 30 years running from guilt instead of facing it? Marcus didn't know, so he started with the truth. I don't know why I'm here, he said quietly. Part of me wants to leave. Let you die the way you let me go. Just walk away and never look back. The ventilator hissed. Monitors beeped. Diane didn't move. But I can't. Marcus's voice cracked. Because I'm not you. I'm not someone who abandons people when things get hard, even when they deserve it. He pulled out the letter from St. Vincent's, the one Diane had written 32 years ago. I read what you wrote, about how you were drowning, about how you thought I'd be better off without you. Marcus stared at the paper, and maybe you were right. Maybe I did need better than what you could give. But you know what I needed more? A mother who stayed, who tried, who fought for me instead of running. Silence. Just machines keeping her alive. I built an empire to prove I was worth something, to prove you made a mistake. But no amount of money fills the hole you left. No success makes up for growing up thinking I wasn't enough. Marcus folded the letter, put it on the bedside table. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to fight. You're going to survive, because I'm not letting you off that easy. You don't get to die without answering for what you did, without explaining why, without looking me in the eye and telling me the truth. He stood, looked down at this broken woman who'd broken him first. And if you do survive, if you make it through this, we're going to have a conversation, a real one. No lies, no excuses, just truth. About why you left, about where you went, about all the years you chose addiction over finding your son. Marcus walked to the door, stopped, turned back. But until then, I'm not going anywhere. Because someone has to make sure you don't die alone. And apparently, that someone is me. Over the next 3 days, Marcus barely left the hospital. He canceled meetings, postponed deals, ignored calls from his office. His assistant thought he'd lost his mind. His business partners threatened to pull out of the $50 million investment. Marcus didn't care. He sat in room 412 and watched machines breathe for his mother. On day 2, Dr. Patel said Diane's fever had spiked, that the antibiotics weren't working fast enough, that they might need to prepare for the worst. Marcus sat beside her bed and told her about his life, about college, about starting Kane Ventures, about the first million he made and how it felt empty because there was nobody to share it with. You missed everything, he said. Every milestone, every achievement, every moment I wished someone was proud of me. On day 3, Diane's fever broke. Dr. Patel called it a miracle. Marcus called it stubbornness. Diane Parker might be many things, but a quitter wasn't one of them. Even her body refused to give up easily. They removed the ventilator that afternoon. Diane woke up slowly, confused, reaching for tubes that were no longer there. Easy, a nurse said. You're in the hospital. You're safe. Diane's eyes focused, scanned the room, found Marcus sitting in the corner. You're still here, she croaked. Her voice was destroyed from the breathing tube. I said I wasn't leaving. Tears spilled down Diane's face. Why? After everything? Because you don't get to die before answering my questions. Diane laughed. It turned into coughing. The nurse gave her water, adjusted her pillows, then left them alone. They stared at each other, mother and son, strangers connected by blood and trauma. Ask, Diane said finally, whatever you need to know. Why? The question Marcus had carried for 32 years. Why did you leave me? Diane closed her eyes. Because I was 22 and drowning. Because I looked at you and saw everything I'd given up. Because every time you cried, I heard the sound of my life ending. She opened her eyes. I know how terrible that sounds, but it's the truth. So you chose yourself over me. I chose to give you a chance at a better life, with people who wanted to be parents, who had money, stability, everything I couldn't give you. Except I didn't get that better life. Marcus's voice was ice. I got foster care. I got families who saw me as a paycheck. I got 13 years of knowing I wasn't wanted anywhere. Diane's face crumpled. I didn't know. I hoped. You hoped because it made walking away easier. Because you wanted to believe abandoning your son was somehow noble instead of selfish. You're right. Diane didn't try to defend herself. I was selfish. I was young and stupid and cruel. And I've paid for it every single day since. Have you? Marcus stood, walked to her bedside. Because from where I'm standing, looks like I'm the one who paid. You got to live your life. I got to survive mine. You call this living? Diane gestured at herself, at the hospital room, at the broken shell of a woman she'd become. I destroyed myself with guilt, alcohol, drugs. I've been homeless for 17 years, lost everything, everyone, all because I couldn't live with what I'd done to you. Good, Marcus said, but the word tasted like ashes. They sat in silence. Rain tapped against the window. Machines beeped their steady rhythm. Finally, Diane said, "What happens now?" "Now you get better. Then we figure out what comes next." "Why would you help me? I don't deserve it." "No, you don't." Marcus met her eyes. "But I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing it because I need to prove I'm better than you, that abandonment doesn't run in our family, that I can be the person you should have been." Diane nodded slowly. "Fair enough. And when you're healed, when you're strong enough, we're going to have a real conversation about everything. No more running, no more hiding, just truth." "Okay, but understand something." Marcus leaned forward. "Helping you doesn't mean forgiving you. Saving your life doesn't erase what you did. We're not suddenly a family. We're two people trying to deal with a mess you created 32 years ago." "I understand." Marcus turned to leave, stopped at the door. "For what it's worth," Diane said quietly, "you turned out better than I ever could have made you. Maybe I did one thing right by letting you go." Marcus didn't respond, just walked out of room 412 and into the Seattle night, wondering if forgiveness was something you could choose or something that just happened, whether you wanted it to or not. Continuing the story with high emotional stakes and strong pacing, 2 weeks after Marcus pulled Diane from that rainy street corner, she was discharged from Harborview. The doctors had done their job. Antibiotics cleared the pneumonia. IV nutrients brought her weight up from dangerously low to just concerning. Physical therapy got her walking again without trembling. But discharge raised the question nobody wanted to ask. Where does a 70-year-old homeless woman go when the hospital can't keep her anymore? The social worker suggested a shelter, a halfway house, maybe a Medicaid facility in Tacoma. Marcus listened to these options, nodded politely, then said, "She's coming home with me." The social worker blinked. "Home? You mean my penthouse? I have a guest room. She'll stay there until we figure out something permanent." The social worker looked at Diane. Diane looked at Marcus like he'd lost his mind. "You don't have to do that," Diane said quietly. "I can go to a shelter. I've done it before." And look where that got you. Nearly dead on 3rd Avenue. Marcus's voice was hard. "This isn't charity. This isn't forgiveness. This is me making sure you don't end up back in the ICU in 3 months." "But your home has 5 bedrooms and 1 occupant. I think we can make it work." So, Diane Parker, who'd spent 17 years sleeping in doorways and under bridges, moved into a $12 million penthouse overlooking Puget Sound. The first week was silent warfare. Diane stayed in her room mostly, emerged only for meals that Marcus's chef prepared, sat on the balcony staring at the water like she was afraid to touch anything expensive. Marcus buried himself in work, came home late, left early, communicated through post-it notes on the fridge, doctor appointment Tuesday 3 p.m., or food in refrigerator, help yourself. They orbited each other like planets afraid of collision. On day 8, Marcus came home to find Diane cleaning his kitchen. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Dishes." Diane didn't look at him. "Seemed like the least I could do." "I have someone who does that." "I know, but I needed to do something. Sitting around in that room all day makes me feel like I'm waiting to die." Marcus loosened his tie, poured himself scotch, watched his mother, a word that still felt foreign, scrub plates with methodical precision. "We need to talk," he said finally. Diane's hands stilled. "Okay. Not now, I'm not ready, but soon. About what happens next, about whether you stay here or go somewhere else, about whether we try to, I don't know, figure out what we are to each other." "I understand." "Do you?" Marcus set down his glass. "Because I don't. I don't understand why I brought you here, why I'm paying for your medical care, why I haven't thrown you out like you deserve." Diane turned to face him. "Maybe because you're a better person than I ever was." "That's a low bar." "I know." They stood in the gleaming kitchen. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed Seattle lit up like a circuit board. Somewhere out there, Diane had frozen on a street corner, and Marcus had stopped. "I went back to St. Vincent's," Marcus said. "Read your letter, the one you left when you dropped me off." Diane's face went pale. "I didn't know they kept that." "They keep everything. Every record, every file, every piece of evidence that someone once cared." He pulled the letter from his jacket pocket. "You wrote that you hoped I'd find a good family, people who could love me right. Did you?" "No. I found 12 different families. Some were okay, most weren't. But you know what I learned from all of them?" Marcus's voice was hard. "I learned that biology doesn't make you family. Showing up does. Being there does. Choosing someone every day does." "I know, I'm not finished." Marcus stepped closer. "You walked away because being my mother was hard, because you were young and scared and drowning. Fine. But you know what's harder? Being the kid left behind. Being the one who grows up thinking he's unlovable because his own mother couldn't stand him." Diane's tears fell silently. She didn't wipe them away. "So here's what's going to happen," Marcus continued. "You're going to stay here for now. Get healthy, get stable, and we're going to figure out if there's any relationship worth salvaging, or if this is just me being unable to abandon someone the way you abandoned me." "And if there's nothing there?" Diane asked. "If we can't fix this?" "Then we go our separate ways. I'll set you up in a place, make sure you're taken care of, but we don't pretend to be something we're not." "That's fair," Marcus nodded. Started to walk away, then stopped. "But if we do this, if we try to build something, you have to promise me one thing." "Anything." "Don't run. If it gets hard, if I say things that hurt, if you feel guilty or ashamed or like you don't deserve to be here, don't run. Stay. Fight. Prove you're different than you were 32 years ago." Diane met his eyes. "I promise." The second week, something shifted. Diane started joining Marcus for breakfast. They didn't talk much, just sat across from each other reading news on phones while coffee grew cold. But it was something. A start. Marcus learned that Diane liked her eggs scrambled, not fried. That she'd been sober for 19 days and counting. That she volunteered to sort recycling in his building because sitting around makes me crazy. Diane learned that Marcus worked 16-hour days, that he'd never been in a serious relationship, that he kept a photograph of her from 1993 hidden in his desk drawer, even though he pretended he'd thrown it away years ago. On day 12, they had their first real conversation. "Why did you stop?" Diane asked over dinner. "On 3rd Avenue. Why didn't you just keep driving?" Marcus pushed food around his plate. "I don't know. Maybe because I saw myself in you, the person I could have become if things had gone differently. Or maybe because some part of me never stopped being that 5-year-old kid hoping his mom would come back. I'm sorry I never did." "I know, you've said that." Marcus set down his fork. "But sorry doesn't change the past. It just acknowledges it." "Then what does change it?" "This, right now. Choosing to sit here instead of running. Choosing to face what happened instead of hiding from it." Diane nodded slowly. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you think you'll ever forgive me?" Marcus was quiet for a long time. "I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe we just learn to live with what happened and build something new instead of trying to fix what's broken." "I can live with that." On day 14, Marcus came home to find Diane cooking dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and frozen meatballs, but the gesture stopped him cold. "I remembered you used to like this," Diane said nervously. "When you were 5, you'd eat it every night if I let you." Marcus stared at the pot of boiling water, the jar of sauce, the woman who'd remembered something so small from 3 decades ago. "I still do," he said quietly. They ate together. Real conversation this time. About Marcus's company. About Diane's plans to volunteer at a homeless shelter. About whether Seattle would ever stop raining. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't healing. But it was a foundation. The first brick in something that might someday look like family. After dinner, Marcus pulled out a folder, set it on the table between them. "What's this?" Diane asked. "Apartment listings. Places I think you'd like. Safe neighborhoods, close to bus lines, within your budget once you're working again." Diane's face fell. "You want me to leave?" "No, I want you to have options. I want you to choose to stay if you stay. Not because you have nowhere else to go, but because you want to be here." Understanding dawned. "You're giving me a choice. Something you never gave me." Diane looked through the listings. Nice places. 1-bedrooms with views. Affordable on a social worker's salary once she got certified again. Then she pushed the folder back. "I don't want any of these." "Why not?" "Because I don't want to leave. Not yet." Diane met his eyes. "I know I don't deserve a second chance. I know 32 years can't be erased. But if you're willing to let me try, to prove I can be someone worth knowing, then I want to stay. Not forever, just until we figure out what we are to each other." Marcus studied her face, searching for lies, for manipulation, for any sign this was temporary. He found only truth. Fragile and uncertain, but truth. "Okay," he said. "Stay. For now. But the second you start using again, the second you run, the second you prove you're still the person who walked away, I'm gone. I understand." They shook hands across the table, like business partners, like 2 people negotiating terms of surrender. It wasn't much, but it was more than they'd had yesterday, and maybe, just maybe, it was enough to build on. Continuing with the resolution, epilogue, and final CTA to complete the 11,500-word story. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the lobby of the Second Chance Foundation. It was a building he'd purchased 3 months ago in South Seattle. Nothing fancy, just a renovated warehouse with clean spaces and decent furniture. But it had something most places didn't: hope. "You ready?" Diane asked beside him. She wore a simple blue dress. Her hair was cut and clean. She'd gained weight, the healthy kind. And her eyes were clear for the first time in probably 20 years. "Ready as I'll ever be," Marcus said. They walked through the doors together. Inside, 30 people waited. Men and women who'd been homeless, who'd fought addiction, who'd lost everything and were trying to claw their way back. The Second Chance Foundation was Marcus's newest venture, not an investment that would make him richer, but something that might actually matter. The program was simple: 12 months of housing, job training, counseling, and support. Everything Marcus wished had existed when he was bouncing through foster care. Everything Diane wished had existed when she was spiraling into addiction. Diane was the director. Marcus had offered her the position 2 months ago. "Are you sure?" she'd asked. "I'm not qualified. I don't have a degree. I'm just..." "You're someone who's been there. Someone who understands. Someone who won't judge." Marcus had handed her the job description. That's more valuable than any degree. Now Diane stood in front of 30 strangers and told her story. All of it. The pregnancy at 17. The abandonment at St. Vincent's. The decades of addiction and homelessness. The night she nearly died on 3rd Avenue. "My son found me that night," she said, voice steady. The son I'd abandoned 32 years earlier. He had every reason to keep driving, to let me die in the rain. But he stopped. He helped. And he gave me something I didn't deserve: a second chance. She gestured to Marcus standing in the back. "Now we're going to give that same chance to you. No judgment, no lectures, just support. And the belief that where you've been doesn't have to define where you're going." The room erupted in applause. Some people were crying. Others just looked stunned that someone understood. After the presentation, people approached Diane with questions, with stories, with hope that maybe, just maybe, they could rebuild too. Marcus watched from a distance. His mother, a word that still felt strange but was getting easier, was good at this. Natural. Like she'd finally found the thing she was meant to do. "Proud of her?" a voice asked. Marcus turned. Dr. Patel stood there, hands in his white coat pockets. "What are you doing here?" Marcus asked. "I volunteer, 2 nights a week. Thought I'd check out the competition." Dr. Patel smiled. "She's impressive. Hard to believe she's the same woman I pulled out of the ICU 6 months ago." "Hard to believe is right. Can I ask you something?" Dr. Patel said. "Why did you do this? The foundation, hiring her, all of it. Most people would have cut ties and moved on." Marcus thought about that. "Because someone once told me that pain either destroys you or transforms you. Depends on what you choose to do with it." He looked at Diane laughing with a young woman who looked about 19. "I chose transformation. So did she." That night, Marcus and Diane had dinner at his penthouse. Their dinner. A ritual they'd established over 6 months of learning to be in each other's lives. "Thank you," Diane said over pasta, "for the foundation, for believing I could do this." "Don't thank me. Prove me right. Make it work." "I will." Diane set down her fork. "Can I tell you something?" "Sure." "Every morning when I wake up in that guest room, I can't believe this is real, that I'm here, that you forgave me." "I didn't forgive you." Marcus met her eyes. "Not completely. Maybe not ever. But I chose to move forward. There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Forgiveness erases. Moving forward accepts. I accept that you were a broken person who did a terrible thing. I accept that you've spent 32 years paying for it. And I accept that maybe we can build something new instead of trying to fix what's dead." Diane nodded slowly. "I can live with acceptance." "Good, because that's all I've got to offer." They finished dinner in comfortable silence. Then Diane pulled out an envelope. "I have something for you." "What is it?" "Open it." Inside was a photograph, old, faded. Marcus at 4 years old, sitting on Diane's lap, both of them smiling at the camera, happy. Where did you get this? Marcus's voice was tight. I kept it, all these years. Even when I had nothing else, I kept this, because it reminded me that once, for a little while, I was a good mother, before I destroyed everything. Marcus stared at the photo, at the little boy he'd been, at the mother he'd loved before she walked away. Keep it, Diane said, or throw it away, whatever you need. Marcus tucked the photo back in the envelope. I'll keep it, but not because it shows who we were, because it shows we have the capacity to be better than our worst moments. Are we better? We're trying. That counts for something. 8 months after the rainy night on 3rd Avenue, Marcus got a call from St. Vincent's. Mr. Kane, this is Sister Margaret. I don't know if you remember me. I remember. She'd been the nun who gave him his file. What can I do for you? We have a situation. A 5-year-old boy. His mother dropped him off 3 days ago, said she'd be back. She hasn't returned, and he keeps asking when she's coming. Marcus's chest tightened. What's his name? Tyler Chin. And Mr. Kane. He reminds me of another boy I met once. One who waited for his mother, and she never came back. Marcus closed his eyes. What do you need? I don't know. I just thought you should know, in case you wanted to help. Marcus hung up, sat in his office staring at Seattle through floor-to-ceiling windows. History repeating itself. Another 5-year-old waiting for a mother who might never return. He called Diane. There's a boy at St. Vincent's, he said without preamble. Same situation I was in. Mother abandoned him. Diane was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? I don't know. What would you do? I'd go. I'd sit with him. I'd make sure he doesn't feel alone like you felt alone. What if his mother comes back? Then he gets his mother back. But until then, someone should care. Marcus drove to St. Vincent's that afternoon, found Tyler Chin sitting in the same corner where Marcus had once waited 32 years ago. The boy looked up, small, scared, hopeful. Hi, Marcus said, sitting down next to him. My name is Marcus. What's yours? Tyler. That's a good name. You waiting for someone? My mom. She said she'd come back. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. I waited for my mom once too. Right here, in this same room. Tyler's eyes widened. Did she come back? No, not for a long time. But you know what I learned while I was waiting? What? That sometimes people don't come back. And that's not your fault. That's their choice. And you can't control other people's choices. You can only control yours. What choices do I have? I'm 5. Marcus smiled. You can choose to be scared, or you can choose to be brave. You can choose to give up, or you can choose to keep going, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. Tyler thought about this. Did you keep going? Yeah, I did. And it was really hard. But I made it, and so will you. They sat together until Sister Margaret came to take Tyler to dinner. Before he left, Tyler turned back. Will you come back? Even if my mom doesn't? Marcus's throat felt tight. Yeah, I'll come back. Over the next month, Marcus visited Tyler twice a week, brought books, played games, listened to Tyler talk about his mom and what she'd promised, and where she might be. Tyler's mother never returned. Social services started the process of finding him a foster home. One night, Marcus came home and found Diane sitting on his balcony. I've been thinking, she said, about Tyler. What about him? What if he didn't go to foster care? What if he stayed with someone who understands exactly what he's going through? Marcus sat down beside her. You mean us? I mean you. I'm not suggesting we become instant parents, but maybe you could foster him. Give him stability while they search for permanent placement, and I could help. If you want it. You want to foster the kid I'm mentoring? I want to give a 5-year-old boy what I should have given you 32 years ago. A family, a choice, a reason to believe people care. Marcus stared out at the Seattle lights, at the city where he'd nearly died, where he'd built an empire, where he'd found his mother dying on a street corner. "Let me think about it," he said. 3 weeks later, Tyler Chin moved into Marcus Kane's penthouse. It was temporary. That's what the social worker said, just until they found him a permanent home. But temporary had a way of becoming permanent when people chose to make it so. Tyler got the guest room next to Diane's. They painted it blue, his favorite color, filled it with books and toys and a nightlight shaped like a rocket ship. "Is this really my room?" Tyler asked, eyes wide. "For now," Marcus said, "as long as you need it." "And you won't leave, like my mom left?" Marcus knelt down, looked Tyler in the eye. "I can't promise nothing bad will ever happen. Life doesn't work that way. But I can promise that as long as you're here, you're not alone. You're wanted. And you matter." Tyler hugged him, hard, the way only 5-year-olds can hug, with their whole body like they're afraid to let go. Diane watched from the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Later, after Tyler was asleep, she found Marcus on the balcony. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For letting me be part of this. For giving me a chance to do it right this time." "This isn't about you," Marcus said. "This is about Tyler." "I know, but maybe it's about all of us. About breaking cycles instead of repeating them. About choosing to be better than our worst moments." Marcus looked at his mother, the woman who'd abandoned him, destroyed herself, and somehow found her way back. "Yeah, maybe it is." 1 year after Marcus stopped in the rain to help a dying woman, he stood in a Seattle courtroom. Tyler sat next to him. Diane sat on his other side. A judge reviewed paperwork on her desk. "Mr. Kane," the judge said, "you're requesting to formally adopt Tyler Chin?" "Yes, Your Honor." "And Miss Parker, you're listed as co-guardian?" "Yes, Your Honor," Diane said, her voice steady, strong. The judge looked at Tyler. "Young man, do you understand what adoption means?" Tyler nodded seriously. "It means Marcus is my dad forever, and Miss Diane is my grandma forever, and nobody can take me away." The judge smiled. "That's exactly right." She signed the papers, stamped them. "Congratulations, you're officially a family." Outside the courthouse, they took a photo. Marcus, Diane, and Tyler. 3 people who'd all been abandoned, all been broken, all found their way back to something resembling family. "Ice cream?" Marcus suggested. "Yes!" Tyler pumped his fist. They walked to a shop 2 blocks away. Tyler ordered chocolate with gummy bears. Diane got vanilla. Marcus got coffee, because some things never changed. "Can I ask you something?" Tyler said, chocolate smeared across his face. "Sure," Marcus said. "Why did you pick me, out of all the kids?" Marcus exchanged a glance with Diane. "Because I used to be you, waiting in that same room, hoping someone would come back, and I wanted to make sure you didn't have to wait alone. But my mom never came back. I know, and I'm sorry about that. But sometimes," Marcus chose his words carefully, "sometimes the family we build is stronger than the family we're born into, because we choose it every single day." Tyler thought about this while he ate his ice cream. Then he said, "I'm glad you chose me." "Me too, kid. Me too." That night, after Tyler was asleep, Marcus and Diane sat on the balcony with wine and silence. "Strange how life works," Diane said. "A year ago, I was dying on a street corner. Now I'm a grandmother helping raise a kid who reminds me so much of you at that age. You think we're doing okay? With Tyler? I think we're doing our best, which is all anyone can do. Marcus swirled his wine. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't stopped that night? If I just kept driving? Every day. And every day I'm grateful you didn't. Why didn't I? I've asked myself that 1,000 times. I should have kept going, should have let you face consequences, but something made me stop. Diane turned to look at him. You stopped because you're a better person than I ever was, because you understand that showing up matters, that choice matters, that every decision we make ripples out and touches other lives. That sounds like therapy speak. It is. My counselor says it every week. Diane smiled. But it's also true. You chose to stop. Then you chose to help. Then you chose to build something instead of destroy it. Those choices created this. She gestured at the penthouse, at the life they'd built. A family. Broken and strange and not what anyone expected. But family. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I don't know if I've forgiven you, for leaving, for all those years. I know. But I've accepted it. Accepted that you are human, flawed, scared, and that people can change if they want it badly enough. Do you think I've changed? Yeah, I do. You're not the 22-year-old who ran away. You're someone who came back. Someone who's trying. That counts for something. Diane wiped her eyes. Thank you for seeing that, for giving me a chance I didn't deserve. Everyone deserves a second chance. That's what the foundation teaches. That's what we're showing Tyler. That's what you're proving every day. They sat in silence, comfortable now. The kind of silence that comes when two people have said all the hard things and found their way to the other side. You know what the crazy thing is? Marcus said. I spent 32 years building an empire to prove I mattered, to prove abandonment didn't break me. But none of that matters as much as this. As Tyler sleeping in that room, as you running the foundation, as stopping to help someone who needed it. Success looks different than we think it will, Diane agreed. Yeah, it does. 6 months later, the Second Chance Foundation had helped 127 people transition off the streets. 43 had found permanent housing. 27 had gotten sober. 12 had reconnected with family. The Seattle Times ran a feature. Billionaire CEO and his homeless mother team up to change lives. The article told their story. All of it. The abandonment, the reunion, the choice to build something new. It went viral. Other cities wanted to replicate the program. Investors called offering funding. Politicians wanted photo ops. Marcus turned down most of it. This wasn't about publicity. It was about people, about giving others what he and Diane and Tyler had all needed at their lowest moments. Someone who cared enough to stop. On the 1-year anniversary of Marcus stopping in the rain, they held a celebration at the foundation. Everyone who'd been through the program came, brought families, brought hope, brought stories of second chances that actually worked. Diane spoke first. A year ago, I was dying on 3rd Avenue, homeless, addicted, convinced I deserved to die alone for what I'd done. But my son, the son I abandoned 32 years ago, stopped. He chose mercy over revenge, compassion over justice, and that choice saved my life. Now we're here to help you save yours. Marcus spoke next. My mother abandoned me when I was 5. I spent years hating her, building walls, proving I didn't need anyone. But here's what I learned. Walls keep pain out, but they also keep love out. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is lower the walls. Choose to trust. Choose to rebuild. Choose to stop. Tyler spoke last. The kid who'd once waited alone in St. Vincent's. who now had a father and grandmother and a bedroom with a rocket ship nightlight. I used to think being abandoned meant nobody wanted me, he said in his small, serious voice. But Marcus taught me that sometimes people leave because they're broken, not because you're broken. And sometimes family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up when you need them most. The room erupted in applause. People were crying, hugging, believing that maybe, just maybe, they could build something better than their past. After the event, Marcus, Diane, and Tyler drove home together. Rain pattered against the windshield, classic Seattle weather. But this time, the rain felt different. Not cold and lonely, just rain. "You think Mom's proud of us?" Tyler asked from the back seat. He was talking about his biological mother, the one who never came back, the ghost he was learning to make peace with. "I think she'd be happy you found people who love you," Marcus said. "Do you love me?" "More than you know, kid." "What about you, Miss Diane? Do you love me?" Diane turned around, smiled through tears. "More than I thought possible." Tyler grinned, then said, "I love you guys too, even though we're a weird family." "Weird families are the best families," Marcus said. They drove through Seattle, past 3rd Avenue where it all started, past St. Vincent's, where both Marcus and Tyler had once waited, past Harborview, where Diane had fought for her life, past all the places that had shaped them, broken them, rebuilt them, and toward home, whatever that meant, wherever they chose to make it. Because family wasn't about bloodlines. It was about showing up, choosing mercy, building something from the ruins of what was broken. It was about stopping in the rain when everyone else kept driving. And that, Marcus realized as he pulled into his building's garage, was the only success that truly mattered. If you haven't still subscribed yet, then please leave a comment below. Tell us what you think or would have done if you were in Marcus' shoes.